For 13 years, the five of us had settled every quarrel with rock, paper, scissors. It was our private law. The loser paid the bill, surrendered the best seat, fetched coffee, drove across town, or accepted whatever small punishment the others invented. They called it tradition. I called it friendship because, for most of my life, I had needed to believe that was what it was. I had never won. Not once. The night before my engagement celebration, we sat in a private room above a restaurant overlooking the wet lights of San Francisco. Rain silvered the windows, and the Golden Gate was only a dark shape beyond the fog. Julian Mercer tapped 2 fingers against the table. Rock, paper, scissors. Sienna, Noah, and Grant threw paper together. I threw rock. Again, I had lost. Rules are rules, Claire, Julian said with a smile. You're not going on stage tomorrow. He took my hand as if comforting a child and rubbed my fingers between his palms. You really are unlucky. Something inside me went very still. Julian, I asked quietly, when you tapped the table twice, was that a signal? The laughter stopped. Sienna glanced at Noah. Then she smiled. You finally noticed? We've used it since high school, Noah said. Julian shrugged. We never told you because you'd make a scene. You've always been too sensitive. For 13 years, I had believed I was unlucky. Suddenly, the truth was colder. I had not been losing. They had been making sure I lost. I pulled my hand from Julian's. I'm done playing. He laughed. Claire, don't be dramatic. No. Pick another bride for tomorrow. I walked out. Behind the half-closed door, their laughter followed me into the corridor. Are you really going after her? Sienna asked. Julian's voice came easily through the door. Leave her. She begged me for this engagement for months. She'll be here tomorrow before everyone else. The others laughed. At the front desk, the cashier turned the card reader toward me. Ms. Bennett, the total is $4,800. I looked at the machine. For 13 years, I had paid without asking why. Not tonight. The receptionist blinked. I'm not paying. Outside, the rain smelled of the bay and cold stone. I walked home through Nob Hill with my coat pulled tight around me. Our apartment was dark. Behind the closet, I found my suitcase. Then I saw the gown. Cream silk. Hand-sewn pearls. A narrow waist and a sweeping skirt I had designed myself after 3 sleepless nights. I had ordered it 3 months ago. Last night, Julian had told me not to wear cream. You'll clash with Sienna. At the time, I had only swallowed the hurt. Now the words came back with teeth. 6 months earlier, when I had first asked Julian about marriage, he had said Sienna was moving apartments and needed help. Before that, she had been sick. Before that, Julian had lost a game, and the punishment was that he could not discuss marriage for 30 days. Yet the next week, I had seen a photograph on Sienna's social media. Julian and Sienna stood on a private beach in Cabo, dressed like bride and groom. They called it practice. I had cried when I confronted him. He had sighed. Sienna and I grew up together. We've known each other longer than I've known you. Then he had smiled and kissed my forehead. If there were ever anything between us, do you really think I'd be with you? I wanted to believe him. That had always been my weakness. At 1 a.m, the apartment door opened. Julian entered smelling of whiskey and rain. He dropped his keys on the counter. The flight gets in at 5, he said. I said nothing. You need to pick up Sienna's parents from the airport. I stared at him. Tomorrow? They're important guests. He scrolled through his phone. Oh, and don't forget. You lost tonight. Sienna and I will be on stage tomorrow. My throat tightened. It's my engagement party. Everyone knows you're the bride. He looked up. It won't matter if you're not on stage. Then his eyes moved toward the gown. And don't wear that cream dress. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, Julian, let's cancel the engagement. He froze. Then he laughed. Again? It isn't about the game. It's a game we've played since we were kids. You cheated. His smile disappeared. You're throwing away 13 years because you lost one round? One round. I remembered the winter I was sick. We played in the emergency room to decide who would stay. I threw rock. 4 papers appeared. Julian tossed me his car keys. Rules are rules. Take an Uber home. But when Sienna was sick, Julian stayed beside her for 3 days. He had never been willing to lose for me. I closed the suitcase. I'll call off the wedding, he said. I smiled. Please do. I walked past him. Outside, San Francisco woke. Cable cars climbed the hills while fog swallowed the bay. I had mistaken obedience for loyalty. That morning, I chose myself. Before we jump back into the story, do me a quick favor and hit that like button if you're enjoying it so far. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because you won't want to miss the next incredible story waiting for you. Now, let's get back to the story. At 5:30 in the morning, my phone began to vibrate. I watched it from the kitchen counter without touching it. Julian called once. Then twice. Then 8 times in less than 10 minutes. After that came the messages. Where are you? Sienna's parents are waiting. Claire, answer me. This isn't funny. I turned the phone face down. Outside, dawn was climbing slowly over San Francisco. The fog had settled low across the streets, hiding the towers and swallowing the tops of the hills. The city looked like a place that had forgotten its own name. For the first time in 13 years, I did not hurry to solve someone else's problem. At 9, the bedroom door opened so violently that it struck the wall. Julian stood there. His face was pale with anger. I had to drive to the airport myself. I kept folding clothes. Sienna's parents stood there for almost 2 hours. I placed another sweater into the suitcase. Claire, I'm talking to you. I heard you. Then why aren't you apologizing? I looked at him. Because I didn't do anything wrong. His jaw tightened. You're really going through with this? I already did. He laughed without humor. You think you can just quit after 13 years? I can. Sienna appeared behind him. She wore a pale blue coat and held her hands together as if she were afraid of frightening me. Claire, I'm sorry. Julian immediately turned toward her. See? She's apologizing. Sienna lowered her eyes. I never meant for you to have to drive my parents. I almost smiled. There was something remarkable about the way she always found a sentence that sounded innocent while placing the blame somewhere else. Julian stepped closer. You're making her feel guilty. No, I said. I'm finally letting myself feel tired. He grabbed the suitcase. The zipper tore open. Clothes spilled across the floor. You don't get to walk away because you lost. I looked at him. I didn't lose. He frowned. Then what do you call it? Being cheated. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Sienna whispered, Claire, you're hurting everyone. That sentence almost made me laugh. I thought of the hospital. Last January, I had been burning with fever, my body shaking beneath a thin emergency room blanket. The 4 of them had stood around me. Rock, paper, scissors. I threw rock. 4 papers. Julian had tossed his keys toward me. Call a rideshare. I had spent 6 hours alone beneath fluorescent lights. 3 months later, Sienna had appendicitis. Julian lost 5 times. 5. He stayed beside her for 3 nights, peeling apples, buying soup, sleeping in a plastic chair. He had never been incapable of losing. He had simply never been willing to lose for me. I picked up the clothes from the floor. I'm going to my parents'. Julian stared. You're leaving today? Yes. But the party. There is no party for me. His expression changed. Not sorrow. Fear. You'll regret this. I closed the suitcase. I already regret staying. He stepped aside. I walked toward the door. Then my phone rang. My mother. I answered. Mom? Her voice was unusually quiet. Claire, sweetheart, what time should we come to the hotel? I stopped breathing for a second. You're already here? We drove in last night. My father came from a small town in Oregon, where the winters were wet and the roads were bordered by dark forests. They had saved for months to come to my engagement celebration. We didn't want to be late, Mom continued. Your father brought the cider he makes. He said we shouldn't arrive empty-handed. I closed my eyes. Where are you? There was a pause. Outside the hotel. My heart sank. Why are you outside? We thought guests weren't supposed to enter yet. I looked at Julian. He was watching me. You stay there, I said. I'm coming. I grabbed my coat. Julian caught my wrist. Where are you going? To get my parents. His expression hardened. Claire, don't start something today. I pulled free. They traveled 6 hours to see me. They'll be fine. That was when I understood. To him, my parents were an inconvenience. To me, they were home. I ran down the stairs. The streets were wet beneath my boots. Morning traffic hissed over the pavement, and the wind coming from the bay cut through my coat. The hotel stood near Union Square, all glass doors and polished stone. When I arrived, I saw my mother. She stood near the entrance holding her purse against her chest. My father was beside her with 2 heavy bags. They looked beneath the enormous hotel sign. My mother saw me and smiled. Then her smile faltered. Claire. I ran toward them. Before I reached them, a security guard stepped between us. Miss, you can't enter through this door. They're my parents. The guard looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry. We were instructed to keep them outside. By whom? He looked toward the lobby. Part 3. The security guard looked toward the lobby. I followed his eyes. Julian stood behind the glass doors. Beside him was Sienna. She was wearing cream. My cream. For one strange second, the entire world seemed to become quiet. The dress I had designed hung from her shoulders as if it had always belonged there. The pearls caught the morning light. The narrow waist, the hand-stitched details, even the small row of buttons down the back were exactly as I had planned. Last night Julian had told me not to wear cream. Now I understood why. I walked toward the glass doors. Julian stepped outside. Claire, what are you doing? I pointed toward my parents. What happened to them? His eyes shifted. They came too early. They were standing outside. They weren't dressed appropriately for the hotel. My father looked down at his suit. It was old, but clean. My mother touched the sleeve of her coat. We're sorry, she whispered. I looked at Julian. You told security to keep them outside? He exhaled. Claire, this isn't the time. Answer me. Sienna stepped forward. I asked them to wait outside. Her voice was soft. I thought they'd feel uncomfortable around all those people. I stared at her. My father had carried 2 bottles of homemade cider across the city because he wanted to give Julian's parents a gift. They had been treated like strangers who had wandered into the wrong building. You thought they would feel uncomfortable? Sienna nodded. They looked nervous. I laughed. It was a small sound. Almost empty. They were nervous because they were trying to enter a world where they thought their daughter was finally happy. Julian's face tightened. Enough. No. I looked at him. For once, you're going to listen. His expression hardened. Don't embarrass me. I looked at the cream gown. You already did. Sienna's eyes filled with tears. Claire, please. I didn't know it was your dress. You knew. No. You knew the color. Her lips trembled. You knew I was told not to wear cream. She looked at Julian. He said nothing. I stepped closer. You knew the design. Still nothing. And you wore it anyway. The silence between us was colder than the fog outside. Then Sienna whispered, Julian gave it to me. I looked at him. He didn't deny it. Something inside me finally broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. It simply stopped hoping. I turned toward my parents. Mom, Dad, come with me. My mother shook her head. We don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing anything. I took the bags from my father's hands. One was filled with cider bottles wrapped in towels. The other held cookies, a small gift, and a handwritten card. My father had written my name on it. I looked at the old man standing in front of me. His shoulders were bent from years of work. He had never owned a luxury car. He had never entered a ballroom like this. But he had driven all night because his daughter was supposed to have a happy day. You didn't embarrass me, I said. My mother's eyes filled. You didn't embarrass me. Julian stepped closer. Claire, let's not make this bigger than it is. I turned. Bigger? He lowered his voice. Please. There are guests inside. Exactly. I walked through the doors. My parents followed. The ballroom was enormous. Gold chandeliers hung above rows of white flowers. A wall of windows looked toward the gray Pacific. Music played softly beneath conversations. Then everyone saw us. The room quieted. Julian's mother stood near the stage. Her eyes moved from me to my parents. Then to the cider bags. Her mouth tightened. Claire, she said coldly, this is a private celebration. I smiled. I know. She looked at my parents. They should have waited somewhere else. My father lowered his eyes. I stepped in front of him. They are my parents. They don't understand this kind of event. I felt my mother's hand tremble behind me. I turned toward the stage. My name was written in silver letters above it. Claire Bennett and Julian Mercer. Except Sienna was standing beneath it. Wearing my dress. I looked at her. You look beautiful. Her expression softened with relief. Then I continued. It makes sense. She frowned. You've been practicing my life for years. The room went silent. Julian stepped forward. Claire, stop. No. I walked toward the stage. Last night you told me Sienna would stand beside you. He swallowed. I was angry. You told me not to wear my dress. Claire. You said we'd clash. I looked at Sienna. But you didn't want us to clash. I touched the microphone. You wanted me gone. Someone in the crowd gasped. Sienna's eyes widened. That's not true. I looked toward the ballroom doors. My parents were standing outside because they weren't considered good enough to enter. Then I looked back at Julian. And I was supposed to stay home because the woman wearing my dress needed more room on my stage. His face went pale. The host stepped backward. Nobody knew what to do. I did. I reached into my coat and pulled out my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. Let's stop pretending. Julian moved toward me. Claire, give me the phone. No. He reached again. I stepped back. You're not taking anything from me anymore. The room stirred. I connected my phone to the ballroom screen. The first photograph appeared. My original sketch. The cream gown. The pearl embroidery. The handwritten measurements. My initials in the corner. Then the order confirmation. Then the fitting photograph. Me standing in front of my bedroom mirror 3 months earlier. The room became completely silent. Sienna stared at the screen. Julian's mother whispered something. I changed the image. The delivery confirmation appeared. My name. My address. My payment. Julian looked at Sienna. She looked away. You knew, I said. She didn't answer. I changed the image again. A photograph from Cabo. Julian and Sienna. Wedding clothes. Rings. Their friends cheering behind them. The caption read. Practice makes perfect. Someone in the ballroom whispered, "Oh my God." Julian stepped toward the projector. That was a joke. I nodded. Yes. I looked at him. Just like the game. His face tightened. You're twisting everything. Am I? I opened another file. A video. The 5 of us around a table years earlier. Julian tapped twice. Paper. 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 My rock. Everyone laughed. Another video. Same signal. Same result. Another. And another. 13 years of the same trick. The laughter from those old videos sounded different now. Cruel. Small. Pathetic. I stopped the video. For 13 years, you told me I was unlucky. I looked at the 4 of them. You knew I wasn't. Julian said nothing. I stepped down from the stage. My mother was crying. My father looked at the floor. I knelt beside them. I'm sorry. My mother shook her head. For what? For letting them make you feel ashamed. My father touched my shoulder. You don't have to apologize for other people's cruelty. That sentence struck deeper than anything Julian had said. I stood. Then I looked at the table where we had always played our little game. Julian. He looked at me. One last round. His face changed. Don't. Why? He said nothing. Afraid? Sienna whispered, Claire, this is childish. I smiled. That's the only kind of game you've ever been good at. The room seemed to lean forward. Julian's mother told him not to do it. He ignored her. Fine. We sat. The old table. The old game. The same 4 people. But this time, I knew the signal. Julian placed his hand on the table. His fingers moved. Once. Twice. He looked at them. They looked at him. Then all 4 prepared to throw. I watched their hands. And for the first time in 13 years, I felt no fear. I knew exactly what they were going to do. They expected my rock. They expected the girl they had trained. The girl who obeyed. The girl who apologized. The girl who stayed. But that girl was gone. Ready? Julian nodded. 1. His fingers tightened. 2. I raised my hand. 3. They threw paper. I threw scissors. The room gasped. I had one. Julian stared at my hand as if it were a weapon. I looked at him and smiled. Funny. I placed my scissors on the table. I was never unlucky. I stood. I was just surrounded by people who were afraid I'd learn the rules. Before we jump back into the story, do me a quick favor and hit that like button if you're enjoying it so far. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because you won't want to miss the next incredible story waiting for you. Now, let's get back to the story. The room did not know how to react to silence like that. For 13 years, every loss had been followed by laughter. This time there was none. Julian stared at the scissors in my hand. Sienna looked as if someone had pulled the floor from beneath her. Noah and Grant stood frozen beside the table. I picked up my coat. That is enough. Julian rose quickly. Claire, wait. I kept walking. He followed me past the tables. You can't just walk away. I turned. You've been telling me that for 13 years. His face tightened. I made mistakes. You made a system. That isn't fair. Neither was the game. He reached into his pocket. The engagement ring appeared in his palm. I love you. The words sounded strange in that ballroom. Once, they would have stopped me. Now they sounded like a man shouting across a frozen river. You love the version of me that never says no. That isn't true. Then why did you never choose me when choosing cost you something? He had no answer. Behind him, Sienna began to cry. I looked at her. Don't. She wiped her cheeks. Claire, please. You don't get to cry because the lie ended. Julian stepped between us. Leave her out of this. I almost smiled. There it was again. He was protecting Sienna. Even now. My father touched my arm. Come on, sweetheart. I nodded. We walked toward the doors. Then Julian's mother called after us. Claire. I stopped. She approached with the stiff posture of someone accustomed to being obeyed. You are destroying my son's reputation. I looked at her. No. Your son did that. She glanced at my parents. They came here and made this whole thing humiliating. My father slowly turned. For a moment, I saw the old fear in his face. The fear of a man who had spent his life avoiding trouble. Then it disappeared. We came with cider, he said quietly. Not trouble. No one laughed. My mother lifted her chin. We only wanted our daughter to know we were proud of her. Julian's mother looked away. I took my father's bag. Let's go. We left through the main doors. The rain had started again. San Francisco rain was never gentle. It came cold and thin, driven sideways by the wind, making the streets shine beneath the lamps. In the car, my mother held my hand. You don't have to tell us everything tonight. I looked out at the city. I should have told you years ago. My father drove without speaking. After several minutes, he said, sometimes a person stays in a bad place because they remember how good it was at the beginning. I turned toward him. He kept his eyes on the road. That doesn't mean they were foolish. I smiled through my tears. It feels foolish. It feels human. Those two words stayed with me. Human. Not stupid. Not unlucky. Human. 3 days later, Julian began calling. I ignored him. Then came the flowers. White roses. 17 bouquets had arrived over the years. The 18th arrived at my parents' house. I opened the card. I know I hurt you. Please come back. I handed it to my mother. She read it. Do you want me to throw them away? I looked at the roses. No. She seemed surprised. I'll return them. I called the florist. Please take them back. The woman on the phone hesitated. Would you like a different arrangement? No. I paused. Send them to Julian. With a message? Yes. I thought for a moment. Tell him the apology belongs to the person who caused the wound. That afternoon, I received an email. It was from Sienna. She said she was sorry. She said Julian had told her the dress would make everything easier. She said she never meant to replace me. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Not because I hated her. Because I finally understood that forgiveness did not require reopening the door. A week later, a video from the engagement party appeared online. Someone had recorded the final game. The clip spread through San Francisco faster than I could understand. People laughed at Julian's face when I threw scissors. Someone had edited the 13 years of old videos together. 2 taps. Paper. My rock. 2 taps. Paper. My rock. Again. And again. The comments were merciless. But one comment stopped me. She didn't lose for 13 years. They trained her to believe she did. I closed the screen. That sentence hurt because it was true. I had spent so long measuring myself by other people's decisions that I had forgotten how to make my own. So I started small. I went back to my sketches. The cream gown had once represented humiliation. Now I wanted to reclaim it. I rented a tiny studio in the Mission District. The ceiling leaked. The windows rattled when the buses passed. The place smelled of dust, fabric, and old paint. I loved it. For the first time, every object in a room belonged to me. I worked until midnight. Then 1. Then 2. I was building something no one could own. The first collection was small. 7 dresses. 7 chances to prove that something broken could still be remade. I called the collection After the Fog. My father laughed when he heard the name. Sounds like weather. It is weather, I told him. Just the kind that happens inside people. He nodded as if that made perfect sense. 6 months after the engagement party, my little studio had more orders than I could handle. A local boutique offered to display my work. Then another called. A photographer asked to feature the cream gown. I almost refused. Then I agreed. I wanted to look at that color without feeling the old wound. The gown I made was not the same one Sienna had worn. It was better. The silk was softer. The neckline was simpler. Along the waist, I stitched tiny silver scissors cutting through a line of white paper. On the inside hem, hidden from everyone except the woman wearing it, I embroidered 3 words. Choose yourself first. My parents came to the opening. My mother cried before the doors even opened. My father pretended there was dust in his eye. They stood beside me while strangers entered the gallery and admired the dresses. No one asked whether my father belonged there. No one told my mother to wait outside. They were simply my parents. That was enough. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Julian. I stared at his name. For months, I had ignored him. This time, I answered. Hello. Silence. Then his voice. Claire. He sounded tired. Older. I saw your collection. Congratulations. Thank you. I was proud of you. I looked through the gallery window. Fog was rolling over the city. You could have been proud of me when we were together. I know. That was the first honest thing he had said in a long time. I made a mess of everything. Yes. I thought you would always come back. I know. He breathed out slowly. Can I see you? I thought about it. Then I said, no. He was silent. Why? Because seeing me isn't the same as changing. Another silence. I still love you. I closed my eyes. Once, those words would have felt like rescue. Now they felt like a boat that had already sunk. I loved you too. Too? Yes. The line went quiet. I don't anymore. I ended the call. My mother watched me from across the room. Are you all right? I smiled. Yes. And for the first time, I did not need anyone else to believe me. A year after the engagement party, I opened my first permanent studio near the waterfront. The sign above the door read, Claire Bennett, Atelier. My father installed it himself. He measured the wall 3 times. My mother brought lunch. We argued about where to put the plants. It was ordinary. It was beautiful. On opening morning, I placed 2 chairs by the front window. I wrote 2 names on small cards. Mom. Dad. Front row. Always. My mother saw them and began to cry. Sweetheart. I hugged her. No more back rows. My father smiled. I like the back. You're lying. I am. That afternoon, a young woman entered the studio. She was nervous. She held a photograph of a dress. I want something like this, she said. I looked at the photograph. It was an old-fashioned cream gown. Beautiful. What do you want it to feel like? She thought for a moment. Like I'm finally choosing myself. I smiled. I know exactly what you mean. That night, after closing, I walked toward the waterfront. The city lights trembled on the dark water. The Golden Gate Bridge disappeared into fog, then emerged again as the wind shifted. San Francisco had taught me something. The fog never asked permission before arriving. It covered everything. Buildings. Roads. Mountains. Even the horizon. But it never changed what existed beneath it. It only made you wait until you could see clearly again. For years, I had mistaken the fog for my life. I thought I was unlucky. I thought I was too sensitive. I thought love meant staying when everyone else told you to stay. I thought loyalty meant losing quietly. I was wrong. The truth had been there all along. In every rigged game. Every unpaid bill. Every empty hospital chair. Every flower ordered by someone else. Every seat my parents were denied. Every time I was told to accept less. I had not been losing. I had been disappearing. And one morning, I finally stopped. I stopped playing. I stopped apologizing. I stopped waiting for permission. Then I built something of my own. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. A message from my father. Dinner is ready. Your mother made too much food. I laughed. Some things never changed. I typed back. On my way. I walked home through the cool evening air. No ring on my finger. No wedding waiting at the road. Only fog, the city, and a life that finally belonged to me. The game was over. This time, I chose the rules. I was free. At last, truly free.